Welcome back to Tech Smarter. My name is Abby Ritchie, and I am the tech guru at the Smarter Service, where we're helping older adults with their technology every single day. And where you can find me here every Wednesday talking with people who are innovators, operators, and investors in the senior living space. I have an amazing guest with me today. And before I invite him on, first, I wanted to say thank you to our sponsors at Leading Age Arizona. We are so grateful for your participation and for you coming alongside us and sponsoring this episode. So I want to say I am absolutely buzzing today because we are talking with a living legend. Now, our guest has been a pioneer in senior living since before most of us even knew what a smartphone was. And today we're joined with the one and only Jack York. He is the visionary behind IN2L and now Talegate. We're going to dive into the past, the present, and the future of tech for older adults. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss a single minute of this. Welcome to Tech Smarter, Jack. I am thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, I'm always nervous of people who really know me hearing or seeing me on a podcast featuring technology, because I am honestly not the technology guru that some people have assumed, but a lot of our success I've had from a company standpoint has just been surrounding yourself with people that are. So I think I'm okay at trying to paint a vision, but if you get too deep in the weeds, I'm it's like what was the network where I need somebody with an earpiece kind of telling me how I should answer your questions, Abby. But I am honored to be on, and it's been cool to see what you've been doing over the years.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, first of all, I promise you, we're not going to get techie here today. I don't get techie. That would exclude people, and I don't want to exclude people. I only want to include them into the conversation. And what I've learned from working with older adults is like the techier you get, the you lose them. And so I don't want to do that to anyone. And I just want to say it is an absolute honor to have you here. Now, for those of you who go to the conferences, like we do, Jack is like the keynote or the big closer, right, Jack?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of years. I mean, a lot of it's I'm trying to articulate it. It's just like what I think is very cool about the senior living kind of ecosystem is you really do become close to people and friends with people, and the whole vendor provider relationship, at least for me, it just gets very blurred between people that are really good friends that I go out socially with, go to sports things with, it's not in my old technology life. It was more of kind of a dichotomy of you were selling somebody something and you had a business transactional relationship. And I think part of what I've loved about the last 27 years is, it's not always the case, but 90% of the people that you meet are in the whole field because of a personal experience, because they're trying to make a difference. It's hard, everybody's got to make a buck. That it's none of these things are bad, but it just really when I do go to conferences, it's much more of a social thing for me than it is, let me show you my newest widget.
Well, you have truly mastered showing people the newest widget. And at this point, it's just always great to hear you speak about what you're doing. You've had a front row seat to the evolution of technology in senior living, as you mentioned, 26 years. Is that right? And again, this is like before any of us had smartphones or even, knew, or some of us were still working on dial-up. So it's been a journey. And I'm sure you've seen everything that has evolved. From your perspective, let's talk about some of the most significant shifts in how senior living communities view and use technology to enrich residents' lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been rewarding for me. If I go back, I wish I would have taken more pictures of things, because a lot of these things are just in my memory. But like when I would first go to conferences, IN12 was founded in 1999. And so I first started going to conferences, 2000, 2001, 2002. There'd be a couple of technology vendors more in the medical record space, in the things you had to buy and elect that side of it. And we were just out, and especially the first few years, it was just me. And I am the worst wire management person on the planet. And so there are a few people out there that remember what my first booths used to look like, because we would have a laptop plugged into a docking station, which would then go out to speakers and a touchscreen monitor and all this stuff. And it looked like, a Frankenstein convention. But nobody, gave a crap about engagement. It was all just about the operational side of it. And so, it is, it's funny. It is rewarding to think that we were a pioneer in these things. To me, it was really it was not nearly that sophisticated with IN2L, in that it was, why should somebody who's older and may not have computer literacy, may have some physical or cognitive challenges, why shouldn't they be able to listen to the music that they want to listen to, and play a game they want to play with, and see a video clip of their grandkids? So it was honestly a pretty simple concept. And I always give a lot of credit to guys that still work at LifeLoop, like IN12 now being part of LifeLoop, Michael Gardner and Kurt Frisch, that are still at LifeLoop. I mean, they were the two guys that really, really helped this idea that I had of, there's got to be, these people are, they were treated. I mean, I gotta say this the right way, because I love the activity, the life enrichment profession, but in the early 2000s, no one thought of using technology. And so it was, you'd go to these offices that are full of VHS tapes and just mayhem. And it was just like, what, the people living in these communities, they're welders and teachers and lawyers, and they've lived such full lives. And a lot of times the activity program looked somewhat childish. And it was kind of like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I think the fact that we knew nothing about the industry made us really open to, what should we do? I think a lot of times, a lot of technology companies are convinced they have the solution, and then they just try to shove that solution down a provider's throat, as opposed to saying, I have an idea. What do you think about this idea? And so the landscape is so different now. And so I'm not as, I mean, I'm fascinated with AI. I'm fascinated with some of the things going on, but I'm also delighted that I'm not another, a vendor in the space that's competing with 50 other engagement vendors. Really, the landscape has changed so dramatically. It's fascinating.
It really has, so much so, especially within the past 5 years. If you just think about the way that we've been able to connect with older adults within communities, and I just had Jeff Gray on last week from Age Tech Connect / Age Tech Atlanta to talk about the growth of age tech in the industry. And what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned as an entrepreneur in the age tech space that you would want to pass on to some of these innovators who are creating devices and solutions for older adults?
Yeah, I think that, because some things are, it's a much different landscape now, but I think some things do translate. I think the probably the most important thing is for vendors to be super empathetic to what it's like to work in senior living. When somebody, in the middle of the afternoon, somebody could fall, somebody could die. I mean, there is such humanity that the customer base that you're trying to sell to has to deal with, that be empathetic to that. And I think that it's really important to I think that senior living in general, they want to buy products from people they can trust. So it really, to me, it's very much, and you got to be authentic. I'm not saying to not be authentic, but it's important to find out why somebody got into the space. It's important to find out what their what are their struggles, just in general, not so much tied to your product. I just see people, it happens to me all the time. People are always coming up to me wanting to sell me something. First of all, they think, like I said, they think I'm a lot more technical than I am, and they think I have more influence than I do. But they just start yakking about their product, and it's like as I've gotten older, I've tried to be a lot more mentoring to tell people, slow down, slow. Don't. I think it was Craig Erickson, a good friend of mine who runs Windcrest. I think he told me that after a leading age conference a couple years ago, he got like 286 emails from vendors. So I mean, there really is. I think you need to care about. Like I said, you got to be authentic, but I think you need to care about the work you're doing and the work your customers are doing more than I'm trying to sell somebody something. And so,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a different world than people. I was that way. It took me 2 or 3 years to kind of turn off my Silicon Valley selling mode and move it into, you know what, it's okay to let somebody sit on something for 2 weeks. It's okay if they say they're not ready yet, but they are still interested. Well, when's a good time to follow up? And if it's 3 months, the day it's 3 months follow. I mean, I was really good about the organizational structure of that. But if people come in, I think the providers do a good job of smelling out vendors that are chasing demographics, that are trying to build a company to flip. I mean, if everybody can do what they want to be, but for me, it has been a much more of a slow. It's been the hare and the tortoise kind of thing,
Uh, is it
much more
ever
than how do you build this thing to sell.
is it ever, working with the smarter service and discussing digital inclusivity and talking about digital literacy, all of these aspects and how that impacts the community, because it's no longer just an amenity, it is part of the infrastructure, having this type of technology support for residents. It's fully inclusive, part of the infrastructure that residents are now relying upon. But what I wanted to say was, in my experience as well, when I meet people and talk to them and they hit me up in LinkedIn DMs about their technology, it really always just sounds like, hey, you have fallen in love with your solution, as opposed to falling in
Yeah.
love with the people that you are serving. Have you spent any time inside a senior living community? Because your solution is not designed to help people. And so to truly meet them where they're at. And a lot of what we're doing, like with the smarter service and providing tech concierge support, is meeting people where they're at so they can start using the technology their way. And there's just such a disconnect when innovators are creating products that haven't been tested in the market.
Yeah, I mean, my analogy to that is like um, you have or what I said, just that I think it was beneficial for me. Essentially, I was a sales guy pretending to be a CEO for IN2L for 20 years. And I think the fact that I was a sales guy more than like a programmer, I was never in love with a technology. It was like, what's the best way to do it? And I think a lot of times your egos can get in the way, especially with men, not to be sexist, but I think that, and even with just as the company grew, I think this is another huge lesson learned, that as the company grew, IN2L, I mean, the first 10 years were just horrible finance. I mean, it was like, everybody has their stories, which I can go on and on about, but I had saved money diligently for 15 years and lost all of it. And then before I had to go back and get money and blah, blah, blah. But it was, I don't know. It was just, you just look at that landscape. It's just so different from what most people are used to. And I think it was easy for me as the company got bigger to say, you know what, I'm not the right CEO anymore. It's better for me to have more of I still was just as passionate about the product and passionate about the customers, but running a company of 10 people is not running a company of 100 people. So I think it's important to realize what your lane is, and that's kind of what became the evolution to what I'm doing with Talegate now, which is really just in a lot of different ways, just elevating aging through storytelling.
Yes, I love that. I love that you've been interviewing so many older adults, centenarians,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
I know.
and it's fascinating to hear their stories. And what I want to know from you is, tell us about Tailgate, if as if someone hasn't heard about it before, and what kind of lessons you've learned from these type of conversations about the resilience and the adaptability of older adults.
Yeah, and I think this is, you know me well enough that I always kind of do off. I think one of a resident that I just met this morning is going to come in a couple of minutes, and so I'll disrupt what I'm saying now in a second. So what happened? I think I said this a little bit before, is that with IN2L, and not that this was a bad thing, but for 20 years, I was lugging in my demo system, going into a community, trying to talk to the ED, talk to the life enrichment folks, talk to the therapist, sell the product. I was never rude to residents, but I never really spent that much time with them. And then the latter part of my IN2L tenure as CEO, I turned 60 and the company turned 20. So we invented this thing called the 60-20 tour. And I'm always grateful to Lisa Taylor, the IN2L CEO at the time, who let me do this whimsical thing. But I just went all over the country. It was like carpool karaoke in a van, just interviewing people and singing and doing music.
Yeah.
And it just struck me that, man, I've been doing this for 20 years. And even I have no idea how cool these people are that are living in senior living communities. And so that was kind of the gestation for the idea of Tailgate. And some of you out there know Cheryl Crooks, who's now the VP of marketing at Westminster Communities of Florida. She kicked me in the butt to try to do it bigger than I was kind of thinking of. And so Tailgate has just evolved into, the primary thing we're doing is we're a documentary company, is that we're telling very interesting documentaries about people that live in senior living and people that work in senior living. And we really don't like doing marketing pieces. One of the lessons I've learned, to your question, is so much senior living marketing talks about amenities and
Yeah.
talks about their new therapy gym or their new dining program. All these things are great. I'm not saying that. But when you talk, I mean, I've interviewed thousands of people and hundreds of residents. The contented residents do not say a word about amenities. They talk about the other people that they live with and the people that work at the community. And so why not market that through telling these stories? So we've just told, I can go on and on, but we do documentaries of different length. A lot of times we tie them to an organization's annual meeting, but it really is all about elevating aging in creative ways. And so I'm never involved in the editing of these projects. So while they're being edited, that's when I'm driving around in my van interviewing 100-year-olds. And so that's a project that we've called the Vintage Voices 100 Tour. That's a partnership with Nathan Jones and Dash Media. And so for a year and a half, I've been driving all over the country interviewing 100-year-olds. And it is just fascinating. I mean, absolutely fascinating. And so on any kind of social media channel, if you just look at Vintage Voices 100, you'll see the examples of what we're doing. But it has been like a spiritual revival for me on a daily basis. Almost anybody who's 100 has a tie into World War II, which I'm a big fan of. I can go on and I can go on and on and on and on, but I think it's just the thirst people have. I mean, when you really take a step back, you look at a person's life, a full, rich, regardless of whether they're 70, 80, 90, 100, a person that lives in senior living, is that they've lived this full life and your whole life shrinks. It shrinks into a room in a community. And there's no way to get around that. It's just the reality of it. But the thirst that people have for somebody to give a shit about what their life has been
Did you just
has
swear?
been has yeah, well, I don't know. Well, that's
Okay.
one of the changes too. I won't go any farther than that. But it's fascinating. It's just fascinating how thirsty people are to be heard, and it really has been. I didn't realize it would impact me as deeply as it had. That I knew I would have fun doing this, but I
Yeah.
didn't realize how really how reflective it's been.
Yeah, let's talk about that, but has your guest arrived?
No, I think I got the door open. So when he
Okay.
well, I'll give a quick snapshot. He's 99.
Okay.
He's a huge baseball fan, as am I. And so we just drove around for an hour, and he grew up in Pittsburgh. He was talking about old Pittsburgh Pirate baseball players, Roberto Clemente in the '70s, and he's just an interesting guy. And every morning he checks sports with his iPad. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping that he does is kind of comes in here and not talk in general about technology, but just kind of here's the stuff I do. People make it way too complicated. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, what makes you tick as a human being, and what's a technology solution that makes it easy to get to that? Not that
100
complicated.
Not that complicated. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because that is one of our findings. It's something that after working in a community for, say, a month or two, and once we've gotten in there and we've fixed everything that's broken, on your device and why you can't do this or that, after that is where the true engagement occurs with technology. So yes, now your iPad is working. Yes, now we have brought it up to date. What would you like to do with it now? And that really creates the lights on for a lot of people when they can start to use the tech that maybe their kids gave them, but put it to use for their own interests, like checking baseball.
Yeah, it's been wild for me to see how many 100-year-olds are totally smartphone savvy. I mean, it really it's really fun to talk to them about their own evolution into it. And so many of the men I've talked to, and actually, so women too. It's interesting talking to women that work, because so many women didn't work in the 40s and 50s, and it's great to talk to some of these pioneers that did. But they grew up through this fascinating evolution of technology. We just finished a documentary. We're just getting ready to release it at a community called the Forum in Northern California, and these residents are brilliant. They're in the Bay Area, and a lot of them were very involved in really the just the start of the Silicon Valley. This one guy was doing AI design, Dr. Peter Hart, and he's become a good friend. But he was doing AI design in the 1960s, late 60s, and we took him in a Waymo car, the driverless Uber car, and he'd never been in one before. And it
Uh,
was those are the coolest things to do, is to just expose people to this framework that it's their work that lets us now do all this stuff that we take for granted.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. I was just thinking myself, yeah, it's amazing to show people what technology can do, but not in the sense where you just dump it all on them, but you show them how it
Yeah.
relates to their day-to-day life. And I think sometimes as a tech provider or even as a daughter, or you want to just show your folks all the bells and whistles that exist, but really and truly they're not going to use it the way you're using it as a business professional. So if you can make it relevant to their needs, and I'm not saying dumb it down by any reason whatsoever. I'm saying making it relevant and bite size, and then going back and reintroducing the concept again and again and again, because these older adults, they need reinforcement, they need repetition, they need for you to show them how to do it again and again. And it's been an amazing journey in that regard also.
Yeah, yeah, to that point is that we always did a good job with that with IN2L. I just think that, I'm trying to say things that are relevant for tech companies. It was you gotta get your product in the hands, even if you're not selling it to the person, if you're still selling it to the provider, you gotta get it in the hands the of the resident to give you their feedback. And I love the way you phrased it, because that's what we always were very conscious of at early IN2L, is that making something easier to use is not making it juvenile. You're just making it easier to use. There's a reality of people having sight issues, having hearing issues, having tremor issues. Those are just a reality. And if people feel, especially men, older men, if something is like humiliating to them, they're not going to want to do it again. And so it's such a big deal to get that feedback. And I think that it's easy for, it isn't so much that young people by definition are not going to design things well. I just think that it's a different end user of people that, a lot of people are getting very tech savvy now, but they haven't grown up with it. So it is a little bit of a different language that you have to kind of weigh into the way you're designing your product.
100%. Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. So, tell us, if you can, more about your mini documentaries and these whimsical drives with older adults. How do you feel like they're combating negative stereotypes and also creating a more positive view of aging?
You mean from a technology standpoint or just in general?
In general, through Tailgate.
Yeah, no, I think in general. I mean, I am. I mean, I kind of sound hokey when I say this, but I am so driven to do exactly what you say, and I like the documentaries that we're doing. We're telling stories that are of interest to humanity, telling taking the guy that designed AI in the 60s and 70s. That's an interesting story. 2 weeks ago, we were at a BHI community in Michigan with a gentleman that started professionally race car driving at 68, and he's in his 70s now. We rented a track, and we put GoPro cameras all over his car, and he's driving around. I just think that there's so many stories like that. Like this guy Jack that is hopefully going to come in here. He's a huge baseball fan. For his 100th birthday, I'm going to take him to he's been to 57 professional baseball stadiums in his life. I want to take him to his 58th and film it and talk about it and do those things. We're getting people to show our documentaries, and I'll give Daphne Johnson from Respite for All credit for this. She started doing this in one of our projects where she rented a local community theater to show the premiere of her documentary. And it was, there was hundreds, dozens and dozens of people there in the community at large. I think what happens is the senior living world, one of my few critiques of senior living is they've let the media control the narrative about aging and about senior living, and then they complain about it, as opposed to just aggressively getting out front and telling this positive. It doesn't mean that the negative parts aren't real, but it's almost analogous to if you run a community and you're constantly communicating with families, then if something happens in a bad thing, you've already got a relationship built that lets you build on. I feel the same way about if you're out showing. Here comes the man. Jack is in the house
Welcome,
meeting with
Jack.
Jack. So work your way over here, Jack, and
Hey, Jack.
you'll meet Abby. But so do you want to stand, Jack, or have a seat? What's more comfortable for you? So Jack is an aeronautical engineer.
Okay.
He grew up in Pittsburgh. He like myself is an avid baseball fan, and at 99, he's an avid iPad user that he uses for baseball. So And I just met Jack this morning. And he
Hi,
was
Jack.
initially a little skeptical. Who's this guy? Who's this guy that's showing up out of nowhere to take me around? But I think once he put his Dodger baseball hat on, I won him over that we were kindred spirits.
No, it was a chocolate milkshake that did it.
Yeah, we had a chocolate. We went to McDonald's. We had a chocolate milkshake at McDonald's. So, Jack, what's your last name again, Jack?
Carlson.
Jack Carlson. Meet Abby. Abby is a nationally renowned technology guru who has a podcast that talks about technology and aging. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how you were talking about your iPad. How do you use
Just
technology?
for scores.
Just for scores. He uses
And
to
that
check.
name right up, box score.
Love
And
it.
so again, this is to the point of what we're talking about, Abby, that that it's just getting people to do what they want to. You got it right here.
Yeah.
So here.
Let's see. Do you have a case on it?
Here it comes.
Here it comes. Okay. Oh yeah, it looks like it's. I think we got a protective shield on there. There you go. And it looks like it might be placed inside of a case. I'm glad.
Yeah, and so it just
Jack.
It's an app.
It pops right open,
Mm-hmm.
and it's showing him. Here's the baseball scores.
And,
Excellent.
And there's a, okay.
And that is how you.
So yeah, go ahead. I mean, yeah, Abby asked Jack. I mean, Jack
Yeah,
also.
so-
I promised Jack that we're gonna get you to go a different route here. He was an aeronautical engineer, and I asked him to explain how does a 747 get off the ground, and he didn't. He gave an answer which I thought was great, but he said he wanted to do it again. So, are you okay if he gives another explanation? It's kind of a technology thing. Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Keep it simple though. I'm not really a technologist. Just keep it simple for me, okay?
Okay. Now, a wing cross section is not just two straight slabs.
okay.
It's a shape called an airfoil.
Okay, but you gotta explain it to Abby. All these people are watching. So
So it's not two, and a cross section of a wing is not just two straight slabs, top and bottom. It's shaped in a maybe a extended teardrop shape, so called an airfoil. And so the air hits the wing is tilted a little on the fuselage, so the air from below hits it, bounces off, and causes some lift. The top is shaped so that the air has to flow faster across here, the air here, and that reduces the pressure, so there's lift on the top of the wing.
so
And then when it tilts, there's more on the bottom and the top would push the wing up. And the faster it goes, the more that pressure is, and it causes a lift. So the airplane reaches a takeoff speed. The airplane starts to rise.
so that
You.
you asked what is it? How do you change the perception of aging? You walk into a community, and here we are at Trinity Community at Beaver Creek, Ohio.
Yeah.
And you just sit down and talk to people. You just sit down and ask questions of how does a plane take off? And a 99-year-old aeronautical engineer is sitting there in his room ready to tell you if somebody asks him.
And there are hundreds of different shapes of airfoils. NASA probably spent 40 years developing different types of airfoils, depending on the kind of plane, or the blades of a helicopter, the same thing.
So I was trying to get into the weeds with Jack today, and he quickly went into the classified information that I was not able to talk. But then we got to a McDonald's and got a chocolate shake, and we were living large again. So
there you go. There you go. Well, guys.
So if you don't mind, just hang out. Let me keep talking. Can you hang out here?
Yeah.
We can talk afterwards.
Pardon?
Are you okay if we just I got to talk back with Abby.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, and then but I want to talk to you after I'm done about.
2:00 I have to get a banana split. You can get one too if you want.
Yeah, 2:00 banana split. Sign me up for that one too.
Okay, no, that was perfect. So if
welcome,
I mean,
Jack.
let's just leave it at that. That I'll come find you for the.
What?
So Abby, any last words you want to say to this? Is Jack and Jack?
Hi, Abby.
Hey, yeah, I want to just encourage you to keep
Where
up
are
the good
you?
work and keep using your technology your way because it's working for you. And for Jack York,
She's a technology.
and for Jack York, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. You know, I could honestly chat with you, Jack and Jack, all day about your journeys and the stories that you both have collected and just all the wonderful work that you are doing. So, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you sometime soon at the next conference, and just really want to encourage you both to keep up the good work and for being such a trailblazer, both of you. And to everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Trinity Community at Beaver Creek, Ohio, for being with us today. And we will be back here next week with another amazing guest. Thank you also to our sponsor, Leading Age Arizona. And until we meet next week, go out there and make a difference. Thank you.